Hi, this is Barry J. McDonald here, and I would like to welcome you to today's video, which is 10 steps to brainstorming and publishing your book. Now, before we get into the steps, let's just take a step backwards for a moment and just have a look at what writing a book can do for you. Now, even on a numbers level, having a book in the Amazon Kindle store can open you up to a huge audience that maybe you never had a chance to get in front of before. And you don't have the marketing genius to imagine how it would affect your business to be in front of all those people. Whether it's increased traffic to your website, whether it's the critical social proof in the form of testimonials and the reviews on your books. If you can imagine somebody coming to your book page and they're reading all these different reviews and, the change that you've made in people's lives, the results you've brought to them, how much social proof is that for you then when somebody's coming to your website or somebody's contacting your business and you have all this information that you can show to them? It's social proof, it's from a third party. It's not just you kind of bigging up saying how great you are or how much knowledge you have, but the changes that you've made in other people's lives. And then there's the expert status. I don't know what it is with authors compared to other trades or things that people do, but being a published author, it kind of puts you on a huge pedestal. We've seen so many TV shows and radio shows where published authors come on and they speak about their book or they talk about a topic, and because they are a published author, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a best-selling published author, but because you are a published author, for some reason it just, in the public's eye, it kind of elevates you and gives you a little bit of status that you never had before. And you're going to find that, again, like the radio interviews and TV interviews, if you are, if you do publish your own book, there are chances where you get maybe invited onto podcasts. Again, you can, from the social proof and the testimonials, you're going to find people maybe contacting you, maybe wanting to know a little bit more about you, and maybe if you have a coaching program going, or if you could coach them. So for anyone who is publishing your book, if you can kind of work in a coaching program at the back end, you're going to find that you're actually going to earn a lot more money than you could just from the book sales alone, and it could be another income stream for you. But the only problem is basically writing the book. It's going to be hard for you, and being upfront, the toughest part of writing a book is actually writing the book. It's sitting in the seat on it every day and writing out a couple of thousand words when you would rather be doing other things, because there's so much that life can distract you from writing. And it's important that you have a goal, because it'll help you stay in focus, not just on your content, that you don't kind of waffle off and start talking on topics that aren't related to your book, but just to help you stay motivated and to keep writing. And the stronger the goal you have, the more you can follow through on it then too. So when the book is finished then too, if your goal is to to change maybe 1,000 lives, when that book's finished, you're not just going to publish it and forget about it. You have that goal behind that book, that you're going to change 1,000 lives with the content of it. So because of that then too, it's going to help you with your book launch. It's going to motivate you to contact blogs, get on podcasts and all those different things, because you have this dream that you're going to help these 1,000 people or 10,000 people or whatever it is. And this goal can make a big difference to to those people, and it can it can help you then too to motivate you to sitting in that chair day after day when there's other things you would like to be doing. And just because you have a goal, it doesn't have to be a huge one too. It could be something like a personal one. Maybe you've always dreamed that you'd love to be a published author. Maybe it's something maybe that you want to give away at your next business meeting or a live event or something that you're speaking at. Maybe you just want to have the satisfaction of having a box of your books nearby and giving them out to the audience at the show, so they'll actually remember you more. It doesn't have to be, but it could be, maybe you want to get it on the New York Times best-selling list. Maybe you want to be, way up there on the Amazon list, and you want to, have that clipping that you can hold it and you can show it and say, look at me, I'm a New York Times best-selling author. Again, it could be, simply that you want to make more sales. Maybe you just want to be a published author because, you want to, retire on the earnings you're going to make from your books. So if you're not sure what your goal is, and you haven't really thought about it before, because not all of us have. Sometimes we just get into it and we don't actually plan it out. But have a look at what your goal could be. if you're not too sure, have a look at other authors in your niche or in your market, someone who's written a book. Have a look and see, try and backtrack and do a little investigation work to see what they created that book. It could be maybe simply just going to Amazon and having the look inside feature and just having a look maybe at the first couple of pages. Sometimes you're going to find maybe a little short piece from the author saying, well, I wrote this book because of my kids, or because of maybe some life event that happened to me or my wife or something like that. And it's going to give you an idea of what made them write that book. And it's nice then too for the reader, when they do actually begin the book, it bonds you straight away. You can see why the goal of the writer was putting that book together, and maybe it could be something simple, maybe that the author that you're having a look at, maybe there's another reason why they created that book. Have they got links maybe in the back of the book, maybe that's leading over to their website, and they're trying to drive traffic to the website over there. Maybe they're trying to get people to opt into an email list. What about the size of the book? Is it something that is just covering a short topic? Maybe they just wanted to cover a topic and they have maybe a series of books going. So maybe, if that's what their goal was, maybe they just wanted to cover small topics at a time. Maybe they didn't want to sit down and write a huge big, book covering all the, a big huge reference book covering all the topics. So have a look and see what they're doing. Are they offering it free? If they're offering it free on Amazon, again, they're using the traffic that Amazon has, and using that traffic then to direct them over to their website where they can get them to opt in and to, to contact, and collect their details. So who has written the book? Does the book sell for a relatively high price compared to others? Is it offered in print form or digital? Is it traditionally published, Random House or Penguin? You're going to find maybe, having a look at things like that, if it's published through some large traditional publishing company like Random House or Penguin, that somebody has gone down the traditional, publishing route. They aren't a self-published author, and maybe that could say a little bit more of what type, speak a little bit more about that author. Are they selling it from a high price, or are they selling it for a low price? Again, are they trying to get a little bit of that traffic coming from Amazon? And is it available in print format, or is it a chance that maybe somebody has printed off the physical books because, again, maybe they're using that as a handout at a speaking event or something like that, something physical that they can give to your audience. But you can imagine if you were maybe like a real estate business and you wrote a simple book on how to get a better price for your house, or how to get your book, or how to get your house, simple things that you can do to improve the price, how much more you can get out of your house, and you had created a simple book that could hand out to any client coming to you. You can imagine how you can differentiate yourself from all the other real estate business in town because you're a published author. So maybe maybe having a print version of that book then could be great to hand out to those people. And maybe that's what your goal is, to to separate you from all the other businesses in town or whatever it is. So what's your book writing goal? It's important to spend time on it, because you never know how long it's going to take you to to finish that book. Maybe you could, if you really push yourself hard, maybe you could do it in a couple of weeks. Maybe it's something that you're going to kind of dip in and out of over the next couple of weeks and months. So what kind of goal is going to get you to to spend the time and the energy to complete it? And this isn't something now that you have to publish out in the public. Don't have to stick it on your refrigerator door, or something like that. It could be something maybe you just keep to yourself in your notebook or something like that. Something that you can open up whenever it comes to reading time, and when it comes to writing time, and maybe you just don't feel like doing it, and it's something that's going to give you the motivation to get back and to start typing out. So again, you don't have to, it could be even something as simple as maybe you're in for the money. Don't apologize for that. Maybe you just want to earn money from your books, and you want to ditch that 9-to-5 job. That could be your goal. It's whatever works for you, because at the end of the day, it's something that's going to get you to keep your butt in your seat and keep you focused. So get a piece of paper right now and write down your goal. What do you think it is? Your goal may change as as you start going through the book. You may find that your love grows with the book, and maybe you can see your book going a different direction. Maybe it was simply just you were creating a book at the beginning where it was just going to be like for to drive traffic to your website, and all of a sudden then you can see from the content you've put in it that maybe you could work in a coaching program or something at the end of it. So what is your goal going to be? So take some time now and pause this video and write down something that is going to help you start your writing and motivate you. So then we're going to have a look at refining a message. Now it's going to time to see what your book is actually going to be about, because you're going to need some ideas. You're going to need a guideline or something that's going to keep you on. So for some high level overview, like could be something like, I want to write a book about branding, if you were interested in writing a book about branding. But that's a bit general. You need to dig deeper and find a unique message of what your book is going to be. Ask yourself before you begin, who is my ideal reader? What age group are they? What's their life like? Because the more you can put your head in in your reader's life, you can write a book tailored to them. You can speak the way you want to speak. Maybe there's some stories you could add into your to your work that will build a bond between you, because you're speaking the language they speak. Maybe the events that happen in their life that you're for example, if you were writing to maybe a book that was towards grandparents, you have all those kind of references you could put in, maybe family and grandkids and stuff, like all those different things. So what kind of insights can you have? And again, like even what's current and happening in this industry that you can relate, and you can help to get over the message over to that audience. One way to do it is define your message, distill it down to its core elements, and write that as your book blurb. You mightn't have maybe great copywriting skills, but if you could break down what your book is going to do for your customer. If you can imagine, you've probably seen in movies where somebody has to do an elevator pitch, which is basically you've got 10 seconds in a lift, or maybe 20 seconds in a lift, and you have to sell me on that movie that you're trying to sell. So what you kind of do is distill down the very basics of what the movie is in maybe one or two sentences that are going to build curiosity. But not just that, then too, it comes in handy then too when when you're coming to write your book blurb and all those things, because there's so many authors out there. There's so many authors going to be in each niche. There's going to be some way that you're going to have to separate yourself from the rest of it. You're going to find authors are writing on, when you imagine all the books that are in the weight loss market or the dieting market, each one of them has a little bit of a slant that makes it a little bit different from the rest, whether it's a new diet or something's come out, or or it's some kind of twist that they have on it that nobody else has, and it'll kind of make your book more unique. And then if you're not too sure what kind of slant you could go for, have a look at what holes or what content or what books, what part of the market maybe those books aren't catering to. You're going to find maybe that some of the content is, if you know the market well and you know what you're writing about, you're going to find that maybe some of the authors are missing out on parts that maybe you think are really important to your reader and that they should know about. And then from looking at other books then too, you're going to find, content that's coming up again and again, whether it's the weight loss market. Maybe you're going to hear a particular rule, maybe an eating rule or an exercise rule being mentioned in all the books. And then you'll know then too that that's probably something else that you should have in your book as well. So refine your message and try to have some way that's going to make you stand out. If you came to that reader and you explain to them in that one or two sentences what your book is about, it should be something that's going to make them want to buy your book. So take your time and write a couple of drafts of what your book blurb would be. If you're not too sure, have a look at some of the books in your niche or your category. Have a look at some of the book descriptions and read through them, and you're going to find some of the words maybe coming up again and again, or you're going to find how maybe they've tailored the description, maybe put a bit of a slant on it and made it more unique to whatever they were selling. And then once you're happy enough with it and you think it's catchy enough, and that could be something that can go on the back of your book then too, because again, as I said, this is going to be where your reader is going to pick it up, have a look at it, and go on by the slant and the message that you have and what your book is about and how it can help them. It's going to be what's going to make them buy that book. And it's going to help you then to keep focused on the content that you're writing, so you're not just going off and talking off in tangents that have no relation to the content that isn't. It helps kind of put you in like a set of rails, like a train that you can't move off, because you know exactly where you're going to be going. So your story matters. What's the biggest self-imposed roadblocks that authors face? And again, it's the small voice in the head saying, who are you to think you can write a book? There's so many authors probably that have never published their work because they have that little voice in their head. I know I had it when I was starting in my fiction writing on the kids' books years ago. I was thinking, well, who am I to write a book? But then again, if everybody thought like that, nobody would ever publish a book. If you've ever felt or you feel maybe that you're not good enough to write a book, who are you to write a book? I highly recommend you get the book Chicken Soup for the Writer's Soul. And you're going to find there's a lot of some well-known writers, but some other writers that have been successful in their own genre, that even now, after releasing book after book, they still question themselves. When you release the first book, and if your first book is a success, you're going to have that little voice kind of questioning, saying, you know what, that was a stroke of luck. You're never going to be able to write a second one like that. And we can be our own worst enemies like that. We have that little voice, and sometimes if we listen to it, you never take action on it. So ignore that, ignore that voice, because it's always going to be there. Even when you're successful, even if you've written 10 books, you're always going to have that little voice, question whether you're good enough and whether you'll always be successful and if you're ever going to be found out, and all those different things. So that voice does bring up a good question then. Who are you, and why should your reader pay attention to you? Out of all the books in Amazon store, in the weight loss category or in the dog training category or whatever, why should somebody pick up your book? What have you got to give them that nobody else can give? So when you work out that, or you have an idea of why somebody should buy your book, that can help you then to focus you on your content, what you should be writing on. And again, going back to earlier, defining your message, that can go toward your book blurb. What is it about you, and why should people buy your book? You have an important message the same way everybody else has. So why shouldn't you share it just like everybody else does? Because once you put you into a book, it can make that book so unique. Out of all the different books that are whatever niche are in, the readers are gonna get you, are gonna get the feeling of why you created that book, why you wrote that book for them, because you had this message that you wanted to get out there. It could be something like, an author maybe who is a weight loss coach who turned her life around by losing 75 pounds, and she's going to be the one that's, being the encouragement for ladies in that position who, maybe feel that they're never going to shake off that 75 pounds, or that is too big of a goal that they're never going to achieve. But it could be the inspiration for that audience because of that. Then it could be a business coach maybe who struggled for years, maybe who's gone bankrupt, who maybe had got a business to a certain level and then maybe crashed and had to start all over again, and the roadblocks that they went through and how they had to turn it around, and maybe they lost all their clients and they had to go. And it could be one of those stories. It could be like the Hollywood movies, the inspirational story, and that is going to make your book so unique because it's got you in it. Nobody else can copy it. It's sat side by side with somebody else's book in that business category, and it can't be compared because it's basically it's your message, it's your story, and it can't be copied. Again, it could be somebody maybe who's in a small business, who's turned around the business or discovered something that could help other business in in their category to copy the the plan that they had worked out of how to turn their business around, how to get customers in the door, and that message behind that, then your audience is going to fall in love with you because of that. They're going to see, they're going to get the feeling of why you created that book. You created that book for them because you want to help them lose weight. You want to help them, build a stronger business, get more customers, or whatever it is. So once it's uniquely yours, it sets you apart from everybody in your niche. So your story does matter, So what is your story? What is the inspiration that you can, let your readers in on? Something that, why you're writing that book. Again, could be the weight loss if you're writing in that niche. You know, what is a story then, because it'll help bond you to the reader. They're going to know why you put this book together for them, and again, it's going to help them too with the results. If you're somebody who says, well, I've lost 75 pounds, you know, it's going to give that person inspiration that if you did it, well then so can I can do that then too. You know, so what is your story? Again, get that piece of paper out. You know, if you need to pause the video now for a couple of seconds just to think about it, why should somebody, you know, read the book that you're creating? What can you put in it? What, you know, can you, it makes you totally unique from everybody else in the category that you're going to enter. You know, again, it could be something how you turned your life around. It could be, you know, the business that, you know, either was successful and then, you know, went bankrupt and then you had to rebuild it, or whatever it is. So what is your story? What's going to make your book different from everybody else? So then once you have those kind of three things in place, you have your goal, you have your find your message, you know, you have your why your story matters, why you should put the book together. Then we're going to have a look at researching your book. You know, most authors will tell you that the biggest part of the writing is actually reading. It's finding out, you know, what your audience is looking for, what problems they have, you know, what other books are they reading, and, you know, why is that best-selling book in your category, why is it selling so well? You know, what is it that, you know, that is, well, it must have some kind of message that, you know, people are latching on to and they're flooding to. So what is it, what is the you know, the magic ingredient in that book? Or what are, you know, the books in your category speaking about? You know, again, as I spoke earlier about the weight loss thing, you're going to find some topics are coming up over and over again. Maybe you're going to find maybe a lot of them speak about mindset and how it's important to losing weight, or maybe a particular exercise, maybe high intensity training for somebody maybe who's a busy mom and can't have the time to exercise very often. And, you know, maybe this, you're going to find topics that come up over and over again. Maybe it's some business tips or something like that, or kind of something, again, if maybe if it was a book or maybe on blogging or something like that, you're going to find maybe there's a lot of it maybe catered to content creation and, you know, getting out to other blogs and kind of networking with them and all those things. So you're going to have a look at, you know, the research phase of your book. Whatever other people are writing in their books, there's probably a good chance, you know, that there's, you know, you need to have some of that content then too. But of course, it's going to be from your angle. It's going to be your unique story. It's not going to be copied exactly from what they are, because, like, if you don't have the content that your audience is looking for, you know, you're never going to sell a copy of your book. So you're going to need to do the research first. Again, pay attention to things like the book length. You know, what does your, you know, your audience prefer? You're going to find, you know, maybe somebody is interested in maybe a business book, maybe that's just going to take maybe a small portion of business. Maybe it's how maybe a small business can get into social media. You know, it could be maybe somebody who's into blogging, but they just want to know how to, you know, work with an email list or get subscribers to opt in on the opt-in box on their blog. Or maybe content ideas. Maybe they're looking for a simple handbook. Maybe it's going to give them maybe 25, 30 ideas of blog ideas or whatever it is. So have a look and see what your audience is looking for. You know, are they looking for in-depth things? Are they looking for, you know, a short read that's going to help them with something quickly? And, you know, is it something they can do maybe that they can take action on, read the book this morning and have a plan of action by this evening, or whatever it is. Again, what's the writing style like in the book? You know, it is a casual conversation, like two people just speaking, you know, at a coffee shop, or is it kind of more of a kind of formal kind of, you know, how the words is used? You know, is it a kind of conversational thing? Is there large words being dropped in, or, you know, kind of terms and stuff like that then too that you need to add into the content through then as well then. And then where are, you know, when you're researching the authors maybe that you are looking up to or think are the most successful and you would like to emulate them, you know, where are they selling their books? Are they just hanging out in Amazon? Are they just selling in the Kindle store? You know, have they gone over to CreateSpace? Maybe have they got a paperback version? Have they got an audio book? You know, have they gone down the traditional publishing route, which you don't have to because you can, you know, self-publish your own paperbacks and all that. But have they gone to maybe something like Penguin or Bantam Books or something like that? And, you know, what platform? Because, you know, if you want to be as successful as them, you're going to have to get yourself in front of their audience and all the different platforms that they are on then too as well. Because if, you know, if somebody is successful in that category, they obviously know what the main audience is. So you need to kind of copy them too. So you need to dig into the content that you're going to create then too. You know, what are roughly the broad topics that you need to cover. What, again, as I spoke about, what do you need to cover to keep that reader happy, that that's what the content that they want. And then what kind of slant, what angles can you put in that content then to, what kind of unique spin, unique ideas, content, things that maybe the industry has left out. Maybe you might see some weight loss books maybe that aren't including mindset, or maybe things that to you are the most obvious things that should be in a book in that category, but you're going to see that maybe some people haven't left it out, or maybe you have a kind of off, a smaller chapter. Maybe you feel that that topic could be explained better in a larger chapter, and it's something that needs to be covered first rather than a kind of afterthought at the back of the book. So have a look and see what, again, like what are the holes, how can you improve on the content, and then make sure that you are what content needs to be there that your audience expects to see in that book, in that category. So you may need to research maybe 10 books in that category, read it through, and you're going to find from researching these books, you're going to find the topics that come up regularly, and you're going to find how other authors are putting in their their unique personality, their backstory, or whatever it is to that made them do what they did. You're going to find out what their what their writing goal probably is. Again, like what I said earlier, whether it's to to help people, to get people on a mailing list, or whether it's to get people into a coaching program, or what it is. So take some time to research some of the books first, because by doing this, I know it seems when you're keen to get writing a book, you're probably going to say, well, I want to get writing it now, and to hold back and to research, it probably seems like there's a lot of hard work before you actually get in. But you're going to find that if you do the research, you're going to write a better book because of it. You're going to give content that your reader wants to read. You're going to have a better idea of what when it comes to writing your own goal down, your own writing goal. When you've seen how other authors are writing their books and the goals that they have in them, it might inspire you, to write a better book than all of them. Or to find that goal that's going to motivate you, to make you sit in the chair day after day until the book's completed, and then afterwards promoting it and getting it out to a larger audience. And then step 5 then is outlining and organizing your content. Now there's some writers who prefer to write by the seat of the pants. Like if you look at fiction, Stephen King is one of the big proponents of that one there. He just basically sits at his keyboard, and as a stream of consciousness comes in, he just types out the story. And you're going to find people who are planners, who like to plan out, who like to know, well, this is what is going to go in chapter 1, this is going to go in chapter 2, this is going to lead into this scene, and this fiction book is going to lead into this scene, and it's going to lead into this scene, and they have a whole network before the start. So they basically know from the very beginning to the very end how the book is going to play out. Now, depending on you and your writing style, maybe you might be someone maybe who is, has all this knowledge in your head, and you can just sit down for maybe half an hour at a time or an hour, and you can just type out a stream of consciousness and have a conversation with your reader from beginning to end. And you're very happy to do that. So like if that is how you are happy to write out your content, feel free to go down that route. There's no kind of set rules, but you're going to find yourself that you're going to fall into either of those camps. You're going to be someone who wants to plan everything out methodically and know exactly where you're going, or you're going to be somebody who's just going to want to toss down the words on the page and then have a look at them and then tidy them up and put them in a bit of order then after that. So without a rough idea of what you'll be writing about, it's easy to lose momentum and not knowing what to write about. Again, like I said there about the planning and the pantser, if you have a rough idea, if you know today that you're writing chapter 1 and chapter 1 is going to be broken down into this section on this and this and this, you know immediately how you're going to write chapter 1. You know all the signposts that you're going to have to pass through on the way to getting chapter 1 done. And then when you get to chapter 2, then you're going to see, well, in chapter 2 we're going to cover this, we're going to cover this, I'm going to put these examples in, I'm going to put in this testimonial or this related story or something like that, and you can see straight away how to do it. So although planning sometimes can be maybe you might feel maybe holding you back because you want to just get in there and get writing, sometimes it can actually help motivate you, and it can keep you on track then too. Because one thing about being a pantser or somebody who writes from the seat of the pants, sometimes you can just you can veer away off at a tangent, and you could be writing for a while and then realize when you look back at your writing that you didn't need to have that subject matter in your book, and that was a total waste of your time. So sometimes having a plan can actually can rein you in, and having those reference points can help you to create the content that you are needing to require. So excuse me, apologies about that, I just had a sneeze there. So when it comes to outlining and organizing your content, there's various ways you can do it. Now, some of the software that you can use are Scrivener. I've used this many times on writing fiction, and it's very, very helpful. It does take a wee while to get used to it, but I find that once you actually get used to it, it works out a lot easier to, you can see the things better than you can if you're using maybe Microsoft Word or a Word document, because you can kind of place all the different chapters on different pages, and you can actually click from one to the other, and it gives you a better kind of flow, and you can actually see how it works. So if you're interested in something like platting out your content, you could try something like Scrivener. Or if you're maybe somebody who likes physically just getting the something tactile, maybe that you can place in front of you and play around with them, get a pack of index cards or sticky notes or something like that, and place them then in front of you, how you think each chapter should be laid out and what order they should go, or if you're happy enough to kind of get everything down on a Word document or a mind map or something like that, or even just a physical notebook and pen, planning and outlining your content will just give you a better idea of where your book's going to go, and it'll make sense to you and the reader, because you know that this chapter is going to cover these things, and then that other thing I know is could go in there is going to lead smoothly into chapter 2, and it's going to build and build and build, and there's going to be a flow of your book from start to finish. There's not going to be a chapter that doesn't belong there or a section that shouldn't be, because you'll have looked at everything. Because by outlining and organising your content too, it's going to make your book not just run smoothly, but it's going to stop you wasting time putting in content maybe that isn't relevant, doesn't need to be there, and it will give your book a better flow and make more sense to your reader. And then as well then too, just because you have an outline doesn't mean that it is carved in stone. Even when I used to do the fiction books and I had maybe a storyline plotted out, and this character had to go through this and this and this and this, sometimes I actually found that when I was writing the story, all of a sudden the character would do something that surprised me, and then all of a sudden the book veered away in a different the storyline veered away in a different direction because of it. Or maybe I got different I come up with an idea for a different backstory maybe that would fit in better than what I had originally created. And even though the storyline was kind of more or less the same, you're going to find sometimes as you actually get into the book and start writing to it, you're going to come up with a topic and you're going to say, why didn't I think about putting that in? That just really works in well here. Or maybe a memory or some information or testimonial or experience or something maybe that you hadn't thought about when you planned the book earlier is going to come to you. So, don't be afraid of changing your outline as it goes along. It's not set in stone. There's nobody else going to have a look at it. There's nobody else going to know about it except you. So you can play around as much as you want. But you're going to find sometimes that when you do, like the fiction, when you do get in and you actually start writing, sometimes you're going to surprise yourself maybe when you go down a different route, or you're going to find maybe something that can explain something better than maybe you had thought of before or something like that. And your outline may change. It mightn't change an awful lot, but you're going to surprise yourself that some of the things may change. So don't feel that maybe you just have to follow everything, exactly the plan. Sometimes your plan needs to change as you come along. So if if for example then too, as your plan's changing, you may say to yourself, well, maybe I shouldn't write a full book about this. Maybe this is something maybe where I could break down into a shorter thing, and maybe I could offer maybe the second part of this book as a lead generation tool. Maybe I could have part, I'm giving away great content in part A, and rather than putting part B in with part A, maybe I can have part B over as an opt-in over on my blog or my website, and I can get people to opt in there and get them on email list. So you're going to find then maybe that the format of the book is going to change, and maybe you might want to break it up or something like that. And feel free to do it, because at the end of the day it is your book. But when it comes to outlining your book, there's a must-have sections. You know yourself from reading books, fiction or non-fiction. Especially in the fiction, or sorry, in the non-fiction, you're going to find this outline. You're going to have the introduction where somebody is just talking a little bit about the book and what the book is going to do for them, and then a little bit about the person themselves, why they are the perfect person to write, this book for you. Maybe you're going to find a lot of testimonials at the front of the book. You're going to find a lot of people bigging up the author, saying, oh, he made such and such a difference in my life because he made me do this and he helped me do this. And it puts that reader in, in a frame of mind that, you are the right one for them. They're not just going to look, it's like the same way you see maybe somebody who is coming on to a stage maybe for a motivational speech. They usually have somebody else who's kind of drumming up the crowd, exciting them up, and gives them a dramatic introduction, and then bang, on comes the speaker, and then they just take off from there. So you're going to find, in the non-fiction books, you have the introduction and have the about you pages that kind of drum up a bit of excitement and why you are the person that this person should be reading your book. And then you're going to follow along then with chapter 1 and each chapter after that. And then you're going to find then at the very end of the book, then you're going to have the conclusion, then what was explained in the book, and if there's any other more information that the reader should know about, again, like blogs, websites, coaching programs, or anything else then too. And again, just recapping over what you covered in the book, and giving them a little bit of a motivational, pat in the back, and you can do it, and all those kind of things. So that is kind of what you're going to find in a lot of the non-fiction books. You're going to find that fixed outline. So whatever the choice of tools you have, whatever the outline is that you want to use, again, it's totally up to you. What works for me mightn't work for you, and maybe you might actually, by following somebody else's process, it can hinder you, and maybe you might come across as well in the book because you're kind of feeling stifled, or maybe if Scrivener isn't for you, maybe you might find maybe that you can work faster or work clearer using a mind map, or or index cards or anything like that. So, and again, when it comes to your book then too, is it a lead generation tool or something like that? So when it comes to outlining your book, maybe there's some of the good content that you can leave out and purposely put it in a supplement, small report or something like that, or additional tips, or something that you think that reader is going to love to get their hands on, and by you holding back on that, you can get them on your email list. So that's when it comes to that outlining. So then the goal setting then too, there's no point in writing a book if it's going to take you 10 years to do. You need to have some kind of deadline or something, or some kind of way of keeping on top of it, that that this book doesn't go on and on and on, that you have kind of set point. This is the moment where I'm going to start the book, and this is the moment when I think I'm going to finish the book. Again, these are flexible too. You're going to find, if you're writing a 20 page book, like a lead generation book, it's not going to take you that long compared to maybe a 350 page, fiction book, or kind of big, huge reference book, So you're going to find that you're going to have to work out a writing schedule. If you think to yourself, well, I'll only write a page when I want to write a page, you can imagine the majority of days you're not going to want to write a page. You're going to be hit with inspiration every now and then, but you're going to have to come up with something that's going to keep you on a regular basis. You're going to need to get your bum in that seat and get that typing every day. So you know yourself best. You know better than I could. You know the distractions you're going to have. You know what are going to be the best times of day which suits you better. Some authors will find that they get up very early in the morning and they will start writing then, because that is the quiet time in the house. That is when the family isn't disturbing them or anything like that, and they can get a couple of chapters in, or a couple of 100 words in before anybody wakes up. Then you're going to find some authors then maybe who feel better that they can write in the evening time, because the house is quieting down and there's less kind of distractions. But then yourself well then too, maybe you're a big TV show fan, and maybe the evening time is for TV time, when so maybe like binge watching TV shows in the evening time. So you know yourself best. You know what are the downfalls. What are your distractions. If you're going to be distracted at home constantly, maybe you need to go to the local coffee shop. Maybe you need to go to the library. Maybe to go somewhere else. Like in my case, when I was writing the kids' fiction books, sometimes when we were away with the kids or whatever, sometimes I would just stay back in the car maybe for an hour on my own with a laptop, and I would just do some of my fiction writing in the car, when I was left alone for that hour or so. And I used to get a couple of words because it's peace and quiet. Again, I could meet up with the family, and whatever way, if we went for a walk with the dog to the forest or something like that, Catherine would take the kids away for a little while, and then I would do some writing in the car, or whatever it was, you're going to find that what are your weaknesses, what's going to distract you, you're going to come up with excuses. Oh, I don't want to do that. So maybe some days you might be saying, well, I don't want to write, but sometimes maybe if you do it first thing in the morning when you're at your highest motivation, and then you get it out of the way, it doesn't matter what you do for the rest of the day then. That day was productive because you got your words down. So have a look at the goal setting and, what time management you need to do. If it needs to come down to like, how about breaking down the content in your book? So for example then too, maybe if you had to write 30,000 words in a month, and, that is what you're going to put in your book. You're going to write a 30,000 word book. Break it down into a 30-day pattern. What could you write? Could you write 1,000 words a day? So if you do 1,000 words a day, then if you religiously do 1,000 words a day, in 30 days time, you're going to have the 30,000 words done. If you do 2,000, you're down to 15 days. Or whatever it is, don't bite off too much of a chunk. It's easy to say, all right, maybe I'm going to do 10,000 words a day, and you do 10,000 words a day, and you do 0 tomorrow, and you do maybe 500 the day after that. I'm sure you can see that, it's going to take a long period of time. Sometimes you're better off actually just taking a small chunk at a time and doing over a longer period. But then sometimes you don't want to go too far and take off a tiny piece and just have it run, way on, and you never actually, find the end point of it. So, be realistic in your goals, in your time schedule. Don't worry so much about when it's going to be finished. At the end of the day, nobody knows this book is going to be published, only you. That is, unless maybe you want to, do something where maybe you want to contact people on social media and use them as a motivation and say, here, I am going to have my new book finished at the end of this month. And, having that at the back of your mind, thinking, I need to get that book done because I told everybody I'm going to have it done. Maybe you could use that. But at the end of the day, nobody knows that this book is going to be written unless you tell anybody. So you can work out your own time-based schedule, whatever works best for you. Whether it's only writing for maybe 1 or 2 hours a day, that's all you need to do. Again, you're going to find then too, the more time you spend writing and you get into routine, the easier it's going to get. I know when I began doing my fiction writing, it took a while to get into, sometimes I used to sit down and sometimes I used to maybe type at 500 words, and that was the best I could do for that period of time. And I found that just like a muscle, you're going to find that if you do something regularly on a daily basis, it gets easier and easier, and actually can train your brain. If you are religiously writing at 10 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the evening, and that's your fiction time or your non-fiction time writing, you're going to find that over time your mind will actually, it'll get used to that time. It'll know 6 o'clock coming now, this is writing time, and you're going to find that your writing will get better at that period. Again then, to have a look and see what part of the day is more productive for you, not just in quiet time, but you're actually going to find that sometimes you are mentally better to do different tasks, and you're going to find that some part of the day is going to be better for you to do your writing. In my young case, I used to find that morning times was best when it was not very early morning, but maybe between 9 and 12 was my peak time when my mind was freshest and I could get the writing done and get it out of the way. So you're going to find sometimes are better in the day for you than others. Again, once you find out that perfect time, then it's a matter of just hitting that exact time every day then too, because that is your peak time, and that is when you're going to be most productive and do your best writing you can do. And your writing will get easier the more you do it. Again, you can take maybe the weekend off if you want, but I actually found that even just doing a small piece, even on a Saturday and Sunday, it just kept that kind of, bubbling over, and it really helped me. Again, take note of the word counts. If you're not too sure what is the best time of the day for you, take note of the word counts. You're going to find some days you're going to be more productive. You may only do maybe 1,000 words at a certain time of the day. Another time you're going to find maybe 2,000 words. And you're going to find maybe even days of the week. Maybe if you take the weekend off, when it comes to Monday, you're going to find maybe your brain's a little bit sluggish, and maybe you're not. Your word count is a wee bit low. But if you're recording your word count daily, you're going to start noticing patterns. You're going to notice maybe some days are better than others, and all those things, and you can plan better then too because of it. So when it comes to distractions and procrastination, they are something that you're going to have to get sorted, because these are really the big book killers, because there's nothing that kills you than procrastination. I'll start writing tomorrow, or I just don't feel like writing today. I'll cut off now. I've got 500 words done. I was supposed to do 1,000, but yeah, I'll do 15 tomorrow. And yourself, you're just kidding yourself, and all those distractions. And that's what we're going to have a look at in this step. These are all the things that are going to kill you, kill your book. Life does happen, all right. Like, there's times when, emergencies happen, family events happen. There's some things you can't put aside, but you can work actively then to kind of stop that. When it comes to procrastination, it's very easy to get distracted, because when you are starting off a book and you only have to write in the first 1,000 words, and you're thinking to yourself, God, I have got another 29,000 words to go. The procrastination in those early stages can really can slow you down. Like, compared to maybe if you had your 29,000 words done and you're in the home straight and you only had 1,000 words to do, you can imagine how easy it is just to get that last 1,000 words down. So again, I found that even in my own fiction as well, the first early stages of getting into a storyline and getting going. But once I got past the midpoint and I was coming in the home straight, and the action was building up, and the characters were on a quest and needed to get something done, I found that my procrastination went down because I was more excited about it. So then too, like, have a look at your goal then too. What is the goal that you have picked? Your goal is going to help motivate you too from that, that procrastination. When you look at your goal, it should help you say, well, this is more important than just putting it off until tomorrow, because this means so much to me because of this reason. Again, when it comes to the family then too, like I said, sometimes things pop up, and somebody needs to take care of the kids, and maybe the kids are off school because somebody's sick or something like that, or what can you do then to to get around all those kind of little distractions? Maybe you can do close your office door, or if you can hire a babysitter maybe for an hour or so you can get a little bit of writing done or something like that, maybe in those days when the kids were at home. Let your family know your business hours. Say to yourself, right, I'm writing a book at the moment, and don't contact me between 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning, because I won't be answering the phone. Again then to social media and internet and all that too is going to be all the things that's just going to pull your mind and your focus away off. So before you begin, switch all those off. Turn off your phones, anything that's going to distract you, and just have basically what you're going to need to use. Whatever you're using to write out your word, whether it's an open Word document, whether it's just a Scrivener software, whatever it is, just have that on full screen. There's nothing else happening on the thing. Nothing else can distract you. And, that is going to make a big difference to you. Again, the procrastination, is going to stop you, but, it's all on you. Why do you want to do it? Find some ways to motivate yourself. Again, say to yourself, right, if I do 2,000 words a day, I am going to watch this TV show tonight, and if I don't get the 2,000 words, I can't watch the TV show tonight, even though it's a cliffhanger and I'll never find out what's happened, and whatever it is. Or treat yourself to getting your nails done, going to the movies, whatever it is that you would like to do. How could you use that against yourself? Even in some cases, I've heard of people maybe setting up, giving money to a friend or something like that, and or a family member, and just say, watch that money, and if I don't follow through on my goal by getting so many words done by the end of the month, or whatever it is, you can keep that money. And maybe it's been money maybe that they can't afford to give away, and because of that then too, it motivates them that they they have to get it done to get that money back. Or in some cases, even there was a thing where you could actually set up like a charity thing, where maybe you were going to give money to a charity that you despised, or a political party that you despised, or something like that, but you had this money in escrow, and if you didn't follow through and do the goal that you had, that money went to that political party or whatever it was, that people that you despised, and it was motivating you enough that you didn't want them to get that money, and that's why you focused on your writing or whatever it is. So try and come up with some kind of things to motivate you or reward yourself. Have somebody, if other authors in the same position as you, you can set up a little bit of a group and help, motivate each other, and yourself better than anybody else. I can come up with all these different things, and you're going to procrastinate over this, or you're going to have this problem, that problem, but yourself day to day what your family life is like. What are the best times, the worst times? What can distract you away? Are you distracted by social media, your smartphone? You're constantly looking at it, and all those different things. So by minimizing all those things and trying to cut down on the procrastination, you're going to get a lot better results because of it. So next we'll have a look at step 8, which is choosing a publishing platform. As you're probably aware, when it comes to choosing a publishing platform, there's two main categories. You can either go down the self-publishing route, or you can go down the traditional publishing route. Now, as you're probably well aware, when you go down the traditional publishing route, you usually need an agent to act on your behalf and to sell your book to a publishing company. And then the publishing company then will design the art cover. They will, do the edits, the formatting, the printing, and distribute it. And then in return, then you'll be given a percentage of royalties or whatever on the sales of your book. Now, although the traditional publishing is, seen as a gold standard, of printing because it's been so long on the go and it has a bit of prestige, it is tough getting into it because there's so many people trying to get a traditional publishing contract. And again, when when you're competing with so many people, and maybe if it's your first book, it can be tough getting your foot in the door. So maybe you would be better off to go down the self-publishing route instead. And at least when you self-publish your own work, you can keep the majority of the royalties yourself. But the only thing about the self-publishing route is that because you're self-publishing, it is up to you then to provide, a book in good condition that's well edited and proofread and has a decent book cover and the book description and all the copy and all that, because you'll need to be doing that yourself. You really need to be either outsourcing that to people who can do the job better for you, or you need to learn how to do it properly yourself. So all that is then up onto you. And then when it comes to the category or the publishing platforms, then you're going to need to look at then to, if you're self-publishing, do you want to just do it in print, or do you want to do it on both paperback and digitally? Do you want to sell your book exclusively in the Amazon Kindle store? Do you want to go to branch out and include Smashwords, Nook, or other places, or do you want to go down, where do you want to create your paperback? Do you want to go through CreateSpace, or do you want to use Lulu or Blurb or something like that, or do you want to use Draft the Digital or some places like that? Now, if you're a first-time author and you're creating, text-based books that have, not many images or anything like that, or tables or graphs and stuff like that, one of the best places you can do is the Amazon Kindle store. And you're going to find a lot of people, actually, this is the first place that they create the books, and then they reach out further then to use Amazon's CreateSpace then to make a paperback version of the book as well too. But if you're creating a book maybe that's more image based, like a photography book or something like that, you need to go to Blurb, because they have a speciality that that Kindle doesn't have, and their books actually, if it's an image heavy book, then it'll look better if it's done through Blurb than if it's done with Amazon Kindle. And again, then to have a look and see where your competition is hanging out. Where are the other authors in your niche selling their content? Are they in the Apple bookstore, or are they just in the Amazon Kindle store? Have they created their paperback books? And if so, you're going to find, if you scroll down sometimes to the book description, you can find out who is publishing that paperback version, whether it's just published solely through Amazon or whether you're using another company outside. So have a look at all those things then too. And if you are new to it, the bare minimum you should do, because that is where the audience is at the moment, is to go to the Amazon Kindle store. But be aware that if you have maybe a lot of images or tables or graphs and stuff like that, then you want to include into content, you really need to know how to have all that information formatted properly, so that when it does be displayed on an Amazon Kindle, that it looks properly, that you're not having images going off page and tables not shown properly or something like that. So you may need to go maybe to some place like hiring somebody in Upwork, or going over to somebody on Fiverr.com or something, and getting them that has the knowledge to format all that stuff for you so that it looks properly when it is put on the Amazon Kindle. So then, depending on where you want to publish then to, you may need to get an ISBN number. Now an ISBN number is more or less just it's an identification number. It's 10 digits and it was 13 digits. It was 10 digits books before 1970, and this is a handy way of reference your book. So if somebody wants to look it up, they just basically type in this number, and then that number is linked to your book, and it's an easy way of finding your book. The only thing is then too, if you have a print version and an audio book, you must have 2 ISBN numbers. But if you are publishing your books through the Amazon Kindle store, you don't need to provide an ISBN, because Amazon has their own numbers, and you don't need it, so you don't need to purchase it. But if you were going to go down the route of buying ISBN numbers, if you go to the hyperlink here in the video, myidentifiers.com, you can purchase your ISBN numbers directly from Bowker, and they are the only authorized sellers of ISBNs in the US. Now again, as I said, you don't need it for the Amazon. They have an ASIN number, and that's the number they used for identifying the book in their store. So that is only a requirement that you need to set up on their store. So now that you have everything worked out so far, you've got your content ideas and all that, the next step then is having a look at your book cover, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how great the content is, how great the business examples you put in the book, or the testimonials, or any of the information you put in your book. If it is good and you dress it up in a poorly designed cover, there's no way it's going to work for you, and you know that yourself, because if even you do a scroll through the Amazon Kindle store, you're going to find some book covers are just going to scream amateur, unprofessional, and don't buy this book. Buy some of the book covers that some of the authors have got designed and are trying to sell their books for. What you need to have a book cover that's going to grab someone's attention. If you imagine your book is going to be the book cover is going to be reduced down to a thumbnail size in most bookstores online, and you're going to need something that's going to stand out, that's going to just catch their eye and make them stop and have a look. Because with so many books nowadays, it's easy just to scroll through 100 books and in a matter of seconds. So you're going to need something that's going to pique their interest, and again, it's going to explain what the book is about. If you go to any niche in the business section or the weight loss section, you're going to know, even from a quick glance, you're going to know what that book is about. Sometimes the title may be done in an attractive way, but even sometimes if you don't even see the font or the title on the page, immediately you can say to yourself, oh, that looks like a business book, or that looks like a money-making book, or that looks like something by the way it's laid out. So you need to have something like that on your book cover, something that's going to jump out and explain what you're doing, and that is why you need a good book cover. Again, when it comes to your book cover, then your branding then if you are using your book as a lead generation, maybe you would have the branding from your website on the cover then too as well, or the colors or something like that would kind of link over. Again, images then too, you want images that build curiosity, build out emotions. Again, like if you look at the fiction books, you're going to find how some of the covers can build evoke a bit of mystery or suspense or horror, or a romance feeling from the fonts that are on it, or the pictures that are on it. So the images can make a big difference to what is conveyed over to your readers. And then again too, it comes to the readability then too, on your fonts and stuff like that. The size of your fonts, your own name and the title of the book and stuff like that, it has to be read you should be able to read it from a thumbnail size. So this is something you need to pay attention to then too, with the fonts that you choose and the size of the text, that everything kind of comes off the page and is easily read even from a thumbnail size. Now, when it comes to designing your book covers, of course, you can go down the route, you can hire a book designer. Again, what you could do is, if you are a little low on cash and maybe you just haven't got the expense to hire some big book cover designer, you can go to Fiverr.com at the very, very least and hire somebody over there to give you a decent book cover, which is one that you would be far, far better than you yourself could probably create. Or if you wanted to go further, then go up to maybe Upwork or something like that and get a book cover design there, or even do an online search. Sometimes you can find some websites that are actually selling generic book covers, and you may find one that you could purchase for yourself and then just change the title on the book cover, and then that would do you then as your book cover. Again, when it comes to getting the book cover designed, what you can do is tell your book designer that these are the books that's in your category, because you want your book to kind of blend in you want it to stand out, but you don't want it to stand out in the way that like a weight loss book would stand out in a business category. All the business book covers have a feel to them, a look to them, whether it's graphs like upgoing scales, or money on it, or whatever it is. You're going to know if you scroll through. You're going to take a pen and paper and take note when you're scrolling through whatever section you're going into. What are the kind of things that come up over and over again? What are the best selling book covers? What do they look like? What are the what you're going to find things coming up over and over again. So have a collection of those book covers, whether you have to get a screenshot or something like that, or just get the hyperlink and give them to your book designer and just say, these are what are the other book covers like in my category, and I would like something along that line. Because having all this information makes it very easy for them to give you a book cover that's like them, and there's no kind of over and back of them creating a book cover and then you say no. And at least if you give them all the information there and then, they know exactly what you're looking for, and you can get your book cover designed in a lot faster time. So now that you have your book done, it's great to have it done. You have the book cover, you have everything done, and you're ready to roll. And some people will think that this is the end point, that you can just get it up in the Amazon Kindle store, or the Apple iBook store, or whatever it is, whatever platform that you plan to sell it, and then you can just step back and you can fold your arms and the money is going to roll in. But it's never going to happen like that. You're going to need to launch that book. This is again from your goal. What was your goal at the very, very beginning? Was it to change 1,000 people's lives? Was it to help business owners? Or what was it? Because this is going to help motivate you then in this next part of your book, which is going to be launching it. You're going to need to motivate yourself to contact the blogs and get into Facebook groups, post articles, get onto podcasts and do interviews and stuff like that, because you're going to need to push that book. And then when you do reach a critical mass, at that stage, then you can step back then too, and let the book take off on its own. And then any other following books then too, they're all going to benefit from all that effort you put into the first one. You can kind of, you can ride along on the coattails of the performance of the first book and the publicity that it got you, or the speaking engagements or anything else then too. So you're going to need to do like some kind of book tour, whether it's a virtual book tour or whether it's a kind of, a physical kind of book tour, whether it's, actually going around, physical bookstores and doing book signings or something like that. You're going to need to have some plan of what you're going to launch a book. So a simple way you can do it to launch a book is, you can get, as I said, you can get onto a podcast and get in front of, a large audience. And the best thing about those podcast episodes is they're always up there. So, you're always going to be, new people, or people are going to be listening to those episodes, and you're going to get yourself in front of more and more people. Again, blogs, any blogs in your niche, get onto the blog owners, especially if they're high traffic ones, and ask them if they would accept, either giving your book a review, or if you could go on and do a couple of guest posts yourself and drive a little bit of traffic to your book page. Again, don't forget about the offline world again too. Interviewed in magazines, radio shows, TV, local TV, or anything like that. Pay attention to the offline world too, because they can help you, drive more traffic to your book and help you with launching it. Again, paid advertisements on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and anywhere else. If you have got the money to it, do that. If you're not too sure what you're doing, you can lose a lot of money. So, in that case, you may need to hire somebody maybe that has more experience in it. Again, you can go to somewhere like Upwork and hire somebody who has good social media experience and can help you tinker with your Facebook ads and get you the best return on your investment. It may be well worth paying the extra money for that. So again, you could do, if you're on the Amazon Kindle store, you can do free Kindle days. You can give your book away for free for a couple of days. You can give away a chapter maybe at a launch to get people on an email list in the very beginning before the book is finished. And once the book is out, then you can give a blast out to your email list and tell them the book was released, and it'll help soar your book sales up in the Amazon ranking. And then once Amazon gets a hold of it, then it'll know that it's popular and selling well, and then you're going to find Amazon will take over. So sometimes you can do things like that. You can get an email blast and give it a little bit of a kick before it actually gets going. Now you could do rather, if you can't get onto podcasts and maybe you're not well known, is to go ahead and just create your own podcast, create your own YouTube channel where you're speaking about topics in your book, and again in the YouTube videos make reference to where people can pick up your book, or in the podcast episode then to where people can of course pick up your book. Again, if blogging's your thing and you've got a love for writing after finishing the book, you can take some of the portions of your book out. You can scale them back and write articles on some of the content and use your book then to as a further chance for people to learn more about the topic by buying your book. Again, you can send it review copies to people that are in your industry who could help you and have an audience maybe they could get you in front of. Again, speaking events and something like that, maybe you could speak at something and give away review copies. And again then too, one of the most important things I always hammer it in again and again and again is build an email list. Have an email list that you can call on for all these events, because they're going to be your biggest fans, and these are going to be the people that are going to promote your book free of charge, because they're going to feel part of a community, and because they like you and they want to see you doing well, because most people do at the end of the day. We are helpful to people we do like, and if you can always entice them maybe with a little bit of a bribery where you can include them in the credits for the book, or maybe a supplement course or something like that too. You can give them free if people tweet about your book or like your book and share your book. You can kind of do it on a little thing where the more promotion work they do for you, the more kind of rewards they can get back, and it can help you take some of the pressure off you when somebody else is actually helping you out with the launching. So when it comes to launching your book, you have two distinct goals. You have the pre-release, which is to tell everybody and anybody about your book, that it's coming out, and you're building a bit of excitement and a bit of anticipation, and everybody's looking forward to it. And then you have the post-release. Then this is going to be when it actually launches in the Amazon market or whatever and gets in there, and that is when you're going to make your sales. And you need to have everything planned out then after that then too. So in the post-release then too, you're going to have you will need to have some ways that people can get over to your blog, or if you're going to use this as an incentive to get them an email list, make sure that all those domain names are pointing to the right direction, that your landing page that's going to collect all the email addresses is working properly, that you have the proper Aweber code or MailChimp code or whatever it is for the opt-in box, that everything is working properly in it. So you need to make sure that all those things are ready as well before you get either of those things going, that everything is in place for the traffic that's going to come to it. So have a look and see, what do you plan then? What route do you think is going to be the best for you going down your your promotion? Again, there's nothing set in stone. It depends what you as a person are comfortable doing. Maybe you're somebody who would could talk about your topic for hours and hours on time. So then maybe the podcast, the radio station, TV shows, something like that could be the route that you go down. Maybe you're someone who's a bit shy and doesn't like putting yourself out there too much. So maybe you could go down the route like of staying behind your writing and create a blog and create articles or something like that and create the content that way. So again, there's no such thing as written in stone. It depends what is comfortable to you. But again, as I said before, your writing isn't over when you've finished the end and got your book cover designed and all the book description, the book blurb and all this going. Of course, you're a published author at that stage then too, but if you want to make sales from it, and if making an income from your books is what you're looking for, well then you're going to need to promote it. You're going to need to get out there to as big an audience as you can. But like pushing a rock up a hill, it can be a long drawn out process, but when you do get to the top, then any content that you create after that, if you create a best-selling book, you're always going to have that title that you're always were a best-selling author. So when it comes to coaching classes or websites or whatever digital product you can sell after that, then to that tag is always can never be taken away from you, and it's always going to be there, and it can influence people then to in what attention they pay to you, and how much you can charge for your products after that because of the experience and of being a best-selling author. So my voice is going a little bit at the moment. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and this has been 10 steps to brainstorming and publishing your book. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about me, or if you'd like to know where I hang out, you're very welcome to drop by writecom.com, and you're going to find some great content there along with all my other products. So take care, have a great day, and bye-bye.